So for those who didn't watch my last video, we went out bush a couple days ago, four-wheel driving, and I broke the front axle in the Vitara. So before I head over the old man's to start pulling it all apart, I thought I'd talk about what diff I'm using in the front end and how I did it and whatnot, because I get asked on the daily, like all the time. So I thought I'll make a quick video with explaining everything. So now, funny story with this, I just bought it off me mate. Like, he only had it for a couple months, and this car was mint condition when we got it. An elderly lady had it since brand new. It only had 160,000 on it or something like that when my mate bought it. And yeah, I think I had it for 2 weeks. I think we went out bush once and it was completely stock tires, and we went everywhere. We went all over these tracks and it didn't get bogged. And then one day Dad rang me and goes, there's a diff sitting in, because I bought one. I didn't tell him that I got it freighted to his joint. And he said, there's a diff here. And I'm like, yeah, I'm on my way over. I've got the reciprocating saw and we're going to cut the front out of my car and put it in. And it was simple as that. Middle of winter out the backyard, we had a tarp over the car and we're laying in the mud welding in the front mounts. And oh, that was good fun. Pouring rain and the welders were welding in the wet. And so there was no fancy garages or anything when we did that. So the diff housing I'm running in this is a SJ80, which is a factory coil sprung Suzuki Sierra. And the swivel pin housings are SJ70, which is factory leaf sprung. Now with the SJ80 housing, because factory, that's way too narrow. So as you can see there, we've cut and lengthened it. I think it's about 105 mil or something like that. And then we've put a truss on top, or brace, whatever you want to call it. And also we've put in these 8mm plate gussets in each end, just to give it some strength. Because it's mainly here on the Sierras where they bend. All the stress is right at this point. And all this, the steering components, is just out of the SJ70. That we've it's sleeved. So this is solid steel right here, and the factory Sierra is hollow, but we've machined that down, or turned it down in the lathe, heated up the outer part and pressed it on. So you didn't need to weld it, but we did that just for peace of mind. And the same with the steering rod as well. That's just been heated up, pushed over and lengthened, and then just the ends welded on. Now the Panhard rod, this is out of I got that brand new off eBay. It's a Land Cruiser 80 series, and the only reason I got the 80 series one is because this was the cheapest adjustable one on eBay. I think it was like 88 bucks or 90 bucks or something. And the Panhard bracket, that was just made up. We just made that on there at the time, which is out of 5mm plate steel, and then I think it's 4mm flat steel that we heated up and bent round to give it some strength through there. And it's actually on the other side. It's got a how do I explain it? It's got like a plate that goes up and wraps right around the chassis rail. So it's not just welded on the outside. It's actually fully boxed and braced right around the chassis. And the bottom coil hats are off a GQ Patrol that we turned down in the lathe and welded them on. The coil towels, if that's what you want to call them, are off a 98 Suzuki Jimny. I wanted to keep it mostly Suzuki, well, as much as I can. And all the brakes on it are from the factory car, the Vitara brakes. I just had these brake lines made. And obviously they're so long because this has got a fair bit of droop. And it's very simple, but it flexes and works very well. Like, now the spring and shock setup on this is just a 2-inch spring and shocker from a rear of a Suzuki Vitara, which my mate had at the time and I just bought them off him. And the bottom shocker mount, as you can see, is just, we've made that up, a couple bits of plate steel, and then it's reinforced through the center. Now these aren't the final springs that I'm leaving in it. If you haven't already noticed, there's a big spacer there. Now, I haven't got the proper springs for it yet because I was waiting until I put my new motor on, I put my new bull bar and the winch back on it, and then I'll work out my ride height, work out the spring rate and the length of the spring, and then I'll get new shockers to suit. Because this is out of a rear of a Vitara, it's quite soft. Like you can easily push the front of the car down without too much hassle. And also, before I forget, I don't run a front dampener, simply because the fact is it doesn't need it. Like it doesn't bump steer. You go down roads, like bumpy roads, rocky roads with potholes and whatnot, and it doesn't bump steer at all. It doesn't drive too bad. Like everyone says, when you axle swap a car, like it drives terrible, but compared to an independent front end, yes, it does drive a little bit worse, but to me, I reckon it drives just fine. And the rear radius arm mount is just a box section that it's not box section, it's just a C channel that we've had folded up that wraps right around the chassis, and then we've put our bottom radius arm mount mounted to that. As you can see there, I've painted it so it's hard to tell, but so we actually had to cut all the way up this body mount here, and then same with the other side, and then push the C channel over and then weld it all in. And yeah, and also I'll slide on under, but because we've cut all the independent front end, that actually braced the chassis from side to side as well. So what we've done is we've put this steam pipe bar right through, as you can see there, and I was going to 3-link it at one with the old motor in because I had the room. That's why there's that dog leg there, but since the new motor and it's very tight with the sump and whatnot, it just wasn't going to happen. So, but I wanted this in anyway just for peace of mind, because I only had the factory tube up the front near the radiator, and me being a bit worry-warty, I just wanted it in there. So it probably didn't need it, but I'd rather it there than you bend the chassis and then it's all over. And we just hold sword straight through the chassis, pushed it through and then welded it all round. Alright, well that's a quick rundown. If you want to know more, I'll put a link below for my Instagram, and you can just send me a message on there if you want to know specific things. But now, is it worth all the hassle of doing the axle swap? And if I was to do it again, I probably wouldn't do it, simply because if you saw my last video, my mate in the white Suzuki Vitara, same car, it still has all the factory independent front end in it. Yes, he's got aftermarket arms and he's done a bit of work to the front end, but it goes anywhere this goes. Like, yeah, he might lift front wheels and could snap a CV a bit easier, but which he hasn't done yet. But yeah, he still goes anywhere I go. Yeah, mine articulates and I might be able to climb up rock steps a bit better because it flexes and more wheels touch the ground and whatnot, but he still always manages to get up and not break stuff. So, but if I was to do another axle swap in a Vitara again, I'd definitely use Hilux diffs, because they're way too big for the car. You'll never ever break something. You can run 33s to 35s. Yes, you'd have to cut guards, which I didn't want to do anyway, but you would never have a hassle running 31s on Hilux diffs. And Hilux diff, if you've seen them, they're still quite a small diff, but the CVs and axles and everything is far bigger than a SJ70 axles and CVs, which I run in this. So I hope that's sort of, I've probably missed a few things what we've done, but anything I've missed, you can just message me and I'll don't hesitate to message me and I'll just explain it. So Forgot my big rattle gun, it's down the farm. Grease is all still nice. Normally if the water's been in there, you'll know straight away. I pulled all these apart, fully cleaned them and greased them up. That's why the grease looks so new. This can be a pain because my snap ring pliers are worn out. I should probably get new ones, but every time I go to the tool shop, you just forget as you do because you're looking at all the new tools. She's going to be a cheeky one today, I think. Playing hard to get. Alright. It's still all nice and clean in there. Got some good colour, no water's been in there. It's just little tabs here we got to hit out. It's not normally that tight. Oh, that's jammed up. That's all buggered up. Hope it hasn't messed the threads up on it. Bearings all still look good. I just have to clean that thread up a bit, I think. So the caliper man's actually separate on this. A little bit strange, isn't it? I love me grease. You can see how much grease I packed in there before I put it together. More grease, the more it's going to keep water out. Well, that one's not the broken one. See where you can see we've welded it? That one still looks good. CV's still all nice, covered in good clean grease. Now before we go to the other side, I'll just show you the difference between SJ80 and SJ70 difference. That's SJ70, that's SJ80, which is factory coil, factory leaf sprung, and look at the size difference. Huge. CV's heaps bigger. The last time I broke an axle, it was this one that broke, the short side, because the shorter it doesn't have as much spring. But well, there you go, that surprises me. Alright, let's jump to the other side. Again, this one's all still nice and clean, good grease in it. You can see how one hole is smaller. It just makes it a pain, because normally your snap ring pliers are just one size. Good old Suzuki.
So do you think it was the short one that broke last time?
It was the short one that broke last time.
Okay.
I liked a lot of grease. Shit, that's gonna go everywhere. That's not meant to be that short. Snapped right beside the weld like last time.
Yeah.
Try and fish the other bit out now. So this is what we're working with here. I've got a magnet on a stick, bit of duct tape, copper pipe, wham bam, we're getting this sucker out. Next minute I'll just drop it all and it gets stuck in here. Oh, I'm on something. Oh, I just got myself a shitload of oil. Nice. I think we'll be pulling it out. Bugger. There's not much on there. I thought it would have been worse. The colour looks off, but it still feels alright. My hands are too oily, I can't. Got it. Don't judge me on that. I didn't have another split pin and I wanted to use it. So I just, oh, look at that. pull out my diff breather. If it comes off, like that. Alright, panhard's off. That's everything but the 2 radius arm mounts. So I've just got the steering arms off. Now I'll just get those upper radius arm bolts and the whole diff will just wheel out. Well, there you go. There's the complete diff out of the front of my Vitara. You can see my shock mount's now a bit better. And this one I didn't show before. This bottom panhard mount's been modified and it ties right back into the coil mount there. There's the truss on the top. Brace, whatever you want to call it. That marks from the panhard rod smacking the diff because I didn't have my longer bump stops in, which they're in now, so it's all good. You can see how we've machined up a sleeve that goes in there, because obviously it suits an 80 series bush, 80 series front end. The bolt's bigger, so we just put a sleeve in there and fits pretty good. There she goes. Well, there's the brake. So next, when you heat something up like that, welding it, because it gets so hot, it takes the hardness out of it. So, but that lasted how long and how many clutch dumps and all that kind of thing. So it done pretty well. Put it in a snap lock bag, keep the shit out of it while it's not in the car. So there again is broken axle, and there's the other one welded. So what we'll do now is we'll measure the lengths and then ring the gear cutters and get some made. I'm not sure if I'm going to just fork out the money and go chromoly axles, but or just go the particular steel this is. But I'll wait and see on that. Well, that's going to do it for today's video. All I'm going to do is clean everything up and put it back together without the axles in it for now, because it's going to be easily a month or two by the time I get axles made, and because I've got to source the material myself. So, and I think if I go, because I'm getting axles done, I think I'll just fork out the money and get a front locker, because it's all going to be coming apart anyway, and all me mates and use commenting on getting a locker, so I think I'm just going to do it. Alright, well, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.